Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays a Day podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick. So we have some exciting things happening up in our joint. So first and foremost, I think it's this week. No, it can't be this week. It's this week. Starting this week, we have new mini episodes that are going to be released later in the week, and they are called She Slays Replays. Yes, ChatGPT helped us come up with that. It would have been great if I would have given you options and asked you to help me name them. But then I'd have just had to rig it because I just didn't think of it in time. So I came up with it. It's my thing. So these are going to be little blasts from the past, some of the best moments of some of our best episodes. For those of you that have a podcast or are thinking about one of the things that we took away from our coaching strategy session that we did with another podcast was she was like, wow, your episodes are really long. And I was like, yeah, it takes me a minute to tell a story. And she's like, yes, I've listened to some. I have heard them and I love them. But new people, last year, Spotify said 68% of our listeners were brand new listeners. And, she brought up a really good point that brand new listeners maybe don't want to hear me talk about yada yada for 20 minutes before that's on a good day before we get into the actual episode. And so we're gonna be little guys. So these are, maybe you haven't listened to the episode and giving you a little sample and you want to go back and listen, or maybe you're like, oh yeah, I remember that episode. That was great. So look for those. Those are coming. And I'm sure my editor loved that I announced that they're happening this week, because he's like, well, they weren't going to happen this week. They were going to start next week, but thank you for making it happen. I do that to Kirby all the time. I just announce things and then so they come to fruition. Okay. We started our strategy calls for multi-passionate chiropreneur. And I just have a note on OVAs for my business owners out there. So we collect stats on all of the 40 people who are in the program. OVAs, cost per visits, revenue margins, active patients, churn rate, all this stuff. And one of the interesting things is OVA, office visit average, so this is the average collection you get per visit, is all over the board. And I had somebody say, honestly, I don't talk to a lot of chiropractors. So what's good? What's not good? Should it be over a certain amount? And, here's what I said. As I said, in general, because, I just looked at 40 different ones. I said, it's not necessarily the higher the better, because I saw OVAs. Literally, I have one in front of me that's $85. That's the average collection per visit. Now I'm over here in trying to climb my way up the mountain because we got so deep into a membership hole where our OVA was low 30s, high 20s. Now I would say if your OVA is under 40, I can spot you as a membership clinic from a mile away. And I go you know what? You probably have a little bit of a bleeding heart that we could beep, 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 bump you up a little bit. You could stay membership and live in the 40s, but you do you, boo. But anyways, some of these office visit averages are really high, but their cost per visit is really close to it. So that $85 OVA, that person is running a $79 cost per visit. So their payroll, their just their overhead in general. So it's whoa. So that profit margin is $6. You following me here? So that person has an $85 OVA, which may be really impressive. But if you go, but your cost is there, your profit margin's not that high. That's not necessarily better than somebody who has an OVA of 42, let's say, but their cost per adjustment is 20, right? So that person has a $22 per visit profit margins. Hopefully you're following me, because honestly, this is some free nuggets here that is opening up so many people's eyes in the program of whoa, I've never thought of it that way. And that's just week one. I had somebody reach out. I knew it was going to happen. Reach out. Hey, I'm interested in your program. And I was like, too damn bad, Gina. You can't join. Literally, I've been talking about this damn program since November. I've been talking about this program for so long that I've lost my identity on social media. I don't even know what to post. I haven't posted in like 6 days, which is an eternity for me because I'm like, what did I even talk about before I was talking about the multi-passionate chiropreneur? But I'm like, no, you can't. You cannot join. It is too late. The doors are closed and they don't open until next December. So it wasn't actually Gina, but I just thought that was funny. Okay, let's get down to business. Okay, so today I have Shamina Taylor. She brings the energy, folks. She brings the energy. She is an attorney turned wealth expert, business mentor, author, and speaker, and she helps high achieving women level up in their personal lives. Now, my me slayers, no, he slayers. That's what I meant to say. My he slayers. I don't, even when I have people on who are specifically for women, I make sure that our conversations, because I don't consider myself a podcast for women, even though there's the she, I'm the she. We've talked about this. So anyway, so don't worry. Don't be like, oh no, it's not for me. It is. Because I believe that being a really good leader is incorporating like helping balance your masculine energy with feminine energy. That's what the ideal leader nowadays. So where I was mid bio. I hate when I do that. Okay, she helps high achieving women level up in their personal lives and in their businesses by teaching them how to become the most powerful, fulfilled, wealthy, and successful version of themselves. See, like we all need a bit of that, male or female. I did buy her book and I had planned on reading it by now. It's called like The Quantum Woman. There, I I was busy reading book 3 of Fourth Wing, Onyx Storm. Okay, so like I'm sorry, I haven't gotten to it yet. It looks good. It really does look good. I'll report back though. So let's take a breather. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much for these stories that we get. Of, attorney turned online virtual expert on this or that. And I just feel like it shows us that, God, you did not create our identity to be one thing. Especially one thing that we discovered when we were 24 years old or whatever, you created us to continue evolving and growing and collecting knowledge and sharing our experiences and wisdoms with others. So, however that manifests in our families or our clinics or outside of our clinics, Lord, help us just relinquish any shame or guilt we feel about continuing to develop that identity. Because you didn't create us to be one thing, you created us to be a full rainbow of shit, to just be awesome everywhere. In your name we pray. Amen. She Slays replays won't have prayers either. Oh, they have to stay short. All right. Without further ado, here is Shamina Taylor. Enjoy. Okay, but in reality, you were an attorney in like a past life, air quotes here, right?
Yes, I
Do you
was.
still practice any law?
Not anymore now.
Okay. So you jumped from like, did you practice how long did you practice as an
20
attorney?
years.
Oh, 20 years.
Yeah.
Wow, you look incredible.
Thank you.
There's always these moments on the podcast where I'm like,
Well,
just like,
I'm
wait, what?
50 I'm 52 years old, and, but I'm actually just overcoming this really crazy microdermabrasion thing that happened to me. You're my first podcast that I've been able to get back on camera again because 'cause I've been off camera, but I was trying my face was gloriously flawless for years, and then I people on my team, when they were getting this, microneedling, and it always made me, I had some fear of it. They're
Now,
cutting your
is
face.
this the plasma facial or the like vampire facial thing? Or
No,
this is
that
different?
like, that's where you can do the next step. So that yeah, definitely when they
Okay.
take your PRP, I don't know what it is. But
PRP. Yep.
I everything looked great for a couple of days, and then, things just went sideways, and so I'm in recovery mode right now. My mother, like, begged me not to go, but I was like, "Oh, this vanity in me is to have more collagen," like, but I wanted to do it natural, like, have the collagen for my own body because as you get to a certain age, things start but
Mhm,
if
mhm.
it's not broke, do not fix it is really what
So you didn't like your experience?
no, I probably will not go back again and do it again.
Okay. So by the way, this is all like, welcome to the podcast. This is happening. We're starting off with aging
Oh,
apparently.
right, we
Okay,
forgot we started
where do
recording.
you live? Where do you
I live out in Chicago.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
I'm in Wisconsin. So it's not
Yeah.
like you're in California where you're surrounded by, like, vanity people and all these things that
No, I mean, no, it was honestly, I say vanity only because, people say I look in my 30s. I should just keep enjoying that and keep because I feel like I am. And, depending on what day my joints are talking to me. But, I feel like the work that I've really done in the last, 12 years, the emotional healing work and
Mm.
really doing my inner work has aged me backwards. So it's sort of like, okay, that's the thing that's working because you transmute that energy inside of you that's making you feel a certain way. It shows up in your face, it shows up in your body. Like there's a book that the body keeps score,
Oh,
and
yeah.
tells you where some of your emotional things are, hidden. And I do believe there's such a strong connection with the meridian line that we have within us ourselves, with our emotional state, but also how we age, how we do anything, right? And so I should have just left Mother Nature do what she was doing, and I my cells are moving at a rapid rate because of the work that I'm doing. You're in your high frequency and energy. Everything in your body is going to age backwards. So it's just a natural thing. Like you might know who Dr. Joe is, but I mean, he talks about
Dispensa, yeah.
that. Yeah. And, Dr. Joe, I went to him like 10, 12, 13, 14 years ago, before he was this big shot that he is now. And actually just found out one of my clients was a roommate with him back in the day.
Oh,
And
really? You know
yeah,
he's a chiropractor, right?
yeah, that's
We
right.
we
Yeah, I
like our
do.
we claim him. We're like,
Oh,
"Just so
yeah.
everybody in the world
Oh,
knows."
do you? Oh.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But when I started doing my meditation work, before I met him, his meditations, I did an hour a day for 8 years, and it literally transformed my life. I really feel like I healed things inside of my body through that type of meditation, and it was just really a powerful, everyday thing that I did. Going back, the reason why I was a lawyer for years because I loved being a lawyer, but then I had this, like, meltdown on a yoga mat back in 2013. I just finished a bodybuilding competition, and a girlfriend of mine was joining with me, and the news wanted to do a segment on her because she was very overweight and she had lost a lot of weight doing the work that we were doing. And she's like, "Do you want to, be on the B-roll?" And I was like, "I want to be on TV." So I go in there, and I had done yoga maybe 2 or 3 times at this point. I was I was a heavy lifter. I didn't do yoga's hard. Okay.
Oh,
Yoga is
oh,
hard.
yeah. Flexibility and heavy lifters do not go together.
No, my, like, lats would, like, freak out every time I was in there doing a pose, but it was good because it challenged me, but this particular day and moment, it was just changed the trajectory of my entire life of why I no longer actually practice law anymore. But we went in there and, we're on the yoga mat, and she has us go into these poses. She puts my mat up there, I have my phone beside me, and I'm like, told the cameraman, I'm not very good, don't focus on me. Basically, I was telling him, like, "Hi, I'm here." Had the cutest Lululemon on, outfit. I was like, that's just what I was, that person I was at the time. And, as we're going through the process, she's like 15 minutes in, I was so angry with her at this point because she had us doing, like, I literally think it was at, like, 120 dog downs. She was, like, kinda showing off for the camera, and I looked down at my phone, I'm like, 45 more minutes of this crap, I don't know if I can be able to handle it. But then I am very competitive, so I was gonna win yoga, and she put us in this position where you put one leg one way, one leg the other way, and as I was doing it, I was dying, and so I went and grabbed one of those little blocks to hold on to save my life. And but as I was going through this pose, like, everything in my body started trembling. And I'm of the philosophy, or was, like, no pain, no gain, and when you feel pain, you push through. And because I was someone who was deeply in survival mode, and as I was pushing through this physical pain, and she's talking, she's like, "Are you happy with your life? Are you, to the, what yogis do in the group, are you waking up every day loving your life?" And all the things that she was saying, I'm pushing through this pain, and this pain started turning into an emotional pain as I started thinking about my life. And for the first time in my entire life, I felt this release, like I could let go. And boy, did I ever, I just started crying because the physical
Okay,
pain
just
went
so
to
we're clear,
emotional
there's a
pain.
camera rolling too, though,
Ugh,
right?
there is a camera rolling.
And you're crying
I'm
on
having the
camera.
biggest meltdown of my entire life. I stayed in this position for the entire rest of the class, and we have it. I've been trying to find the cameraman to see where this was because this is part of my origin story and how everything started because I could not unsee what I saw that day. And the snot was coming down my nose. Like, people at first, I think they thought I was laughing because I was crying so heavily. And then at the end, they started rubbing my back at the end of it and came to me, and I lifted my head up after that was said and done. And I was in the frog pose, if you don't know what that is. I realized that I had checked all the boxes for everything I was supposed to have in my life. I did all the things that you're supposed to do, good looking husband, 2 kids. We both had businesses. We went to Europe in the summertime. We went to the Caribbean in the winter. I had all the the material things that you could want, mansion, all the things that, nice cars, all the things that you're supposed to do, friends, but yet something was still missing in my life. It didn't feel right. There was something lost and missing, and I had a hole in me. And after that moment, I realized that, my marriage actually wasn't as great as I thought it was, and, I thought that was the problem, it was the marriage, but it was so much deeper than just the marriage. And after that, went home, and 2 days later, I talked to my husband, and I said, "Are you happy?" And he wasn't happy either. We both were just kinda, and we were like the couple that people had on their wall still from our wedding. We were like the power couple. We were the people that, like, made other people believe in love, and yet here we were suffering and just became roommates, and, it was a hard thing. So a month later, he moved out after we went to a therapist, and I felt such relief. And unfortunately, we decided it wasn't best for him to move back home, and he didn't. And that took me on the road of going through a huge spiritual awakening of really realizing, how did I get to this point in my life where I had everything, but yet I felt like I still didn't. And that's what brought me to my awakening and my spiritual realization. I mean, I was a lawyer. Everything was very much matter of fact, like
Mhm.
very, very, very science, evidence
Very
based.
masculine. Yep.
Yeah, very masculine. And then all of a sudden I started seeing signs. I started seeing 1111. I started seeing like crazy stuff that was happening. And of course, I probably dismissed it, 100 times before I'd actually noticed it. And I went on a deep spiritual journey. I said something in my life went wrong for me to get to this point where I had everything and still I wasn't happy. And if why was every time I had an eyelash drop on my cheek or I found something like a penny and I would be wishing for happiness, you're not supposed to be doing that. It's supposed to come from internal. So spiritual leaders, dead and alive, started coming to me, and I started questioning my whole existence. And I knew I had to leave law and go pursue something else. Didn't know what the something else was. And this is where my faith muscle really started turning
I
on
was
and
gonna say, so you just left a very
left.
lucrative
Yeah.
career
Yeah.
and
I
here
mean,
to
I
go.
literally it says the story how it goes. I left everything except I kept my kids in my house, and that was it. I mean, like all my friends. I had my phone would ring off the hook. I had so many friends and so many social engagements, and I went into something called monk mode, and I did that for a very long time. I was celibate for 3.5 years, and I really worked on finding out who was Shamina. Like, why did I get to this stage and point in my life that I was here? And as I started, like, healing through some things, because I went and did every modality. I had a lot of tragedy growing up. My father was very abusive. There was a point in my life at 16 where, I found I was cheating on my mom, and, when I found out, he brutalized me and he beat me to a point where I thought he was gonna kill me, and I carried that pain with me for decades. As I said, I was 52, I was 16 at the time, and I never got any therapy for it, and so it was just something that was underlying on the surface. But like high achievers and high performers, the thing that pushes us and moves us and makes us, be who we are is that feeling of unworthiness and not feeling like we are good enough. And that's always what keeps compelling you. And for me, it drove me to get to the highest level of my profession. Being a lawyer is, a very good profession. Nothing there wasn't that I couldn't achieve. I pushed my body to the brink all the time. I was constantly in, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Like hustle, 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 do, all that masculine. But it was a fake masculine. It was a false masculine protecting my heart from being hurt and also protecting me from being, anybody doing anything to me. And that's what happens to a lot of women. We go into this driven masculine mode, and it's usually because we're so disconnected from our hearts. So as I started doing the spiritual awakening and the spiritual journey, I started seeing when I healed something, wait a minute, that actually removed that energy from me, and this is where I feel like I aged backwards. And then all of a sudden, I could start attracting things into my life. I thought I had discovered manifesting, by the way, and it was just crazy how it worked. I really
You're
did.
like, "Hey, guys, I gotta tell you about this thing."
I did. I was telling my friends, I'm like, "You gotta do this." And I just thought that that's because I never watched The Secret. I never knew what manifesting was. I was in my own little bubble. And then, I started seeking teachers. Dr. Joe was one of them because I needed science. I wanted to know what was a quantum field. My brand is called the Quantum Woman. I wanted to understand what was happening to me on, a physiological standpoint, like not just, think your thoughts and they become reality, which is true, but also what was happening on a cellular basis. Like how was I skipping timelines? And I decided to start my business. I had no idea what I was going to be doing, but I knew it was going to be sharing my transformation. My first year that I was actually full on in my business, I made $1 million because I feel like I quantum leaped because I did a lot of the emotional emotional work, I didn't have all the self-sabotage or the ceilings that we were putting on ourselves. And it was really profound. I was able to take that awakening around the consciousness of who I was and the healing and then apply it to wealth. And I saw, wow, we just are making it so much harder than we are, and I learned not to be in survival mode, worked on my feminine energy, which you're not supposed to work on it. You're supposed to be on it, but that's just my old self saying that.
Okay,
And
we're gonna dive into
yeah.
that.
Yeah, but that was where I changed the game. I mean, once I learned how to receive, like millions came into my world.
So, do you feel that men and women are like, so just kind of in our hedonic society that we live in, of like, it starts as a child, right? Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And there are a couple very acceptable answers. Lawyer is one of them. Yes, a
Yeah,
doctor is
doctor.
another.
My
Yep,
brother's a doctor.
teacher.
Teacher.
I'm going to be a
Yep,
teacher. That's the only low paying job that we'll accept because we're like,
exactly.
oh, your service
We need
heart.
them. Yeah.
Yes. And so, you know, we have this. Do you feel like the masculine energy is like kind of overtakes that feminine energy in both men and women as we're growing up? Do you feel like only some high achievers receive it in a disbalanced way? Like, what kind of
Yes.
lessons did you learn in that process on that masculine feminine?
Yes, I think we were completely raised to be in the masculine. I'll tell you why. Because when we're little girls, they will say, "Big girls don't cry." We were already told from a really young age that our emotions were not powerful for us to cry. We were told, I don't know if anybody, I have yet to meet one person that's in my age group or 30s or 40s even that have said when they were upset, their parents said, "This is the emotion you're feeling right now. And it's okay for you to feel it." From a young age, they're sticking a binky in your mouth. They're giving you a blanket. They're telling you, like, don't learn how to soothe yourself. And it's not okay for you to feel your emotions because we weren't raised by our parents to feel our emotions. So when a kid's crying or a baby's crying, you're like, the first order of business is to stop them from crying, except maybe they're communicating with you. They're doing something, they're sharing something. But this is how we were raised. So it's always like, how fast can you do it? How quick can you do it? Like, show me how much of a good girl you are. Can you do this? So it was always, we started that validation and that praise mode very young. Like, you get a lollipop if you do it, and so we start showing up to do as opposed to just be. And oh wow, look how happy you are. Like, we didn't get that confirmation when we were little. You're such a smiley, happy. Look how sweet. Oh, it's okay that you're upset. So we never learned how to tap into that feminine, which is our emotions, which is our superpower. And so that just gets shut off for a lot of women. So they go into their masculine, dominant, strategical, logical, planning, all in, their amygdala. They're just living from here as opposed to from their heart. So when I meet a lot of women who are in this state, their hearts, they're loving women, but you can't feel them. They can't connect with people. So they've got this shield on because it's not safe to be in their emotions. As a lawyer, do you think if I walked in there and was in my emotions,
Right,
I would get eaten up. I
right.
had to go in there and I had to double time. I had to double down on my masculine so that I could appear like I was a bitch or that I was don't mess with her because I was going to get the outcome from my clients. I always had to come with a little sugar, but a lot of spice for me to get what I wanted and this was all subconscious. It was not a conscious thing I was doing. I was reading the room. And if you don't read the room correctly in certain situations, men won't, men don't treat you with that same respect, or you're not treated with that same respect if you go into a place and you're not seen as she's going to eat you up, which is
But
terrible.
is it do you okay, so you left, but, like, do you feel now looking back, like, that there is room for that feminine energy to authentically show up in the courtroom, in the surgical room, in the
Now,
boardroom? Now,
now I
maybe not
do.
10, 20
Now
years ago? Like,
now
do
no,
you
right. Now I know how to have the room eating out of my hand without me being in that energy. Now, that's a completely different thing. It's like it's when you start activating the feminine work, which is the emotional work that we do, it's like
which is being, not doing, right? This is what I've
it's
learned
be
so far.
exactly, and I didn't come up with this, but
Sounds
there's a
freaking
saying,
hard.
"Be, do, have," and for many of us, we're
Yep.
have, do, be. Once I have this, I can do this, and then I'll be successful, or then I'll be whatever. But what really we've got it backwards for years. Now it's, they were trying to teach us a long time ago, you need to be, do, have. So be the woman, be in that energy, be the wealthy version of yourself, then go do the masculine things in that energy and then you will have the result that you want. See, I did all the things before, but I had it backwards. And so now when I enter a courtroom, the feminine energy would just have people like, "Who is that woman?" And it would put them at ease. They would take their guard down, and then they would be able to actually listen to me. Because when you come in with masculine, the masculine's gonna come in with masculine again, because
Mhm.
this is what they do. It's like the fighting forces. So they're
Yeah.
gonna
All
armor
right,
up.
we're gonna play. This
We're
is
gonna play.
gladiating. This is
Yeah,
yeah.
and this is why most women are emasculating their husbands, and they're having, terrible sex lives. They're living in different rooms. I even bring it back to money. I believe that money is masculine for this type high achieving, high performing women. Money's masculine to us, and we keep chasing the money instead of being able to relax and receive the money. This is where the getting out of that hustle culture, having adrenal glands that are like high, and you being, tired and gaining the belly fat and all the things that comes with it would subside if we actually learned how to not be in that mode anymore. So yes, I think that if you learn this and then go do the masculine things, but be in that energy first, you would have much more success.
Okay, talk to me more for someone who's like not really familiar with like this feminine energy, how you be it, whether
Sure.
you're a woman or man. Like what
Yeah.
is that feminine energy? How do you just like, okay, I'm gonna be it?
So this is something I actually talk a lot about in my book too. And so there's a page in there that shows the difference between the two, but I'll just give you a couple things. It's not having a bubble bath and getting your nails done and wearing pink underwear. Those are feminine things, but it is being able to, like, I will meet, like right now, I would ask you, are you intuitive? You would tell me
Yes.
yes. Yeah, everybody does. Every single
Everybody does? Oh man, now I
Every
don't feel
single
special.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why you could be special, and why people are every woman I meet says, "I'm so intuitive, I know." And I'm like, "How much do you listen to that intuition?" "Well, usually my gut most of the time," but actually not really. She's so intuitive, but her brain will come in like one of those, like, safe keys, like a latch, and be like, you're getting too emotional. I don't need let's think about this before we do it." And so most of them are making decisions from their head as opposed to their intuition, which is their heart center, which is their soul center. And so if they learn how to really feel what their emotions are, they would change the game. So I believe being able to identify all the emotions you're feeling is really important. For many of the women I work with, they know how to be happy and they know how to be angry, but there's not a lot of in between. When I ask them to describe how they're feeling, they don't have the description. So I say, okay, let's pull up the emotional wheel online. I want you to put that on your phone, and I want you to spend a week saying I feel and whatever it is instead of I think. Because if you catch yourself, you'll start saying I think, I think, I think. And I had to really condition myself to say I feel. So the emotions, knowing everything's going to be okay without having all the answers. I can't tell you how hard that is for most women. They have to know the how, the when. They want everything planned out. They're in their heads. And because there's so much in their heads, they're actually stopping how much success can come to them. Because they see, if I do this, I'll get this. But that actually puts a ceiling and a cap on how much money they make, how much success they can have, because they're all in their heads. But what if you allowed the chaos, that the feminine's the chaos? What if you had an idea and you just took off with it today and not overthink it? I'm telling you that idea that whatever you had today would become much more successful and powerful than the one that you actually thought out and waited too long to take action on. Because when you get inspired to move and you get something, that's a hit from wherever, your higher self, whoever you're talking to, God, the universe. And when you don't listen to it, you are actually doing yourself a disservice. So knowing that everything's going to be okay, trusting. I had to come up with these slogans in my business, which was telling myself it's happening, to hold the faith, and saying if another woman could be successful, I can. If she can, I can. Telling myself more is coming because more is coming. But when or messy makes me millions is what I started doing because I was a
Mm.
perfectionist. I had to have everything perfect. And I was like, you know what, Shamina, we're done with that. Messy makes me millions. I'm just going to start taking messy action. And if it's not perfect, it's okay. I actually threw away my schedule because being overbooked and overscheduled was a trauma response. It was being busy. When you can't be present in your body, then you're constantly trying to get out of it. So that's why you're in that do energy. And your trauma doesn't have to be the level of trauma I had. Your mom could have left you in the aisle at Kmart or something, or where you had an abandonment wound come up, but something is left you to protect yourself. And so when you're protecting yourself, the love that you're feeling is not there. So feminine energy is like trusting. It's the intuition, the chaos, it's the allowing, it's receiving. And we are designed to receive, women. But the way that we even show up in the world, we're showing up with instead of having the sockets come in, we're showing up the other way, if you know what I mean. Like even sexually, this is where we're designed to receive. And a lot of the times I see with women in their business is that they have a hard time receiving support. And so They micromanage everybody in their business. They're control freaks. They have to do everything. They're doing the $10 an hour jobs instead of delegating it. They don't have a support team. Everything is done on their own because, I can do it faster. And then this is where their scarcity mindset comes in around wealth consciousness. And it's just cheaper if I do it. Cheaper if I do it. I can do it faster and cheaper. And not being able to receive support actually leaks out into every area of their life. So if someone says, "Hey, let me open the door for you," I got it, because she's carrying all the groceries, and if she still doesn't use Instacart, or "You're beautiful." Oh, this old thing, she can't even receive a compliment. And so when we're unable to receive, it actually deflects how much wealth we can have,
Mm.
and it puts us in the masculine. Because the masculine to do, it doesn't like to allow. It wants to protect and provide and do the things, but you're trying to do all the things that you're not designed to do, if that makes sense, right? So, for example, someone putting a offer out for her business, if she's running an online business or whatnot, and if she's brick and mortar, she puts an offer out and immediately doesn't see a client come in. Oh my God, what did I do wrong? I need to go
Mm.
fix this out. I've got to go change this. I've got to do this. And she just can't just let that she's done enough to trust that it will come in. And so she actually goes and sabotages herself by doing so much. There's endless things. And I believe we have three core wounds: abandonment, betrayal, and unworthiness. And I can look at someone's book of business and I can see actually which wound, if not all, that are showing up, and how their leadership is with their team, how they're running their support, what type of clients they're calling in, because we are the blueprint for our life and business. So we are emotionally looking at the world through a certain lens, and that lens will determine what the outcome is on the other side, right? So to be in that feminine really requires us to just be like, all right, I hired that person. I'm just going to trust. And if it does go sideways, it's going to be okay. You know what? I'm just going to allow someone that I paid for to do this for me. It's fine. I'm going to hire someone to do the cleaning in my house. I'm not going to clean the house before they come all the time because I hired them to do that. I'm going to receive that. Or I'm going to allow myself to just trust that I made a good decision at the time because I was coming from my intuition and not second guessing myself. And this is something that's very, 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 very hard for us A types to do because we're not programmed that way. We're programmed to get shit done. And it's really hard.
So it sounds like, because one of the questions I have is like, all right, so you gave this example of you put something out there, it immediately doesn't have success. So instead of trusting, you go and do more. Now, it sounds like though, in order for this process of trusting that it is enough, you had to have space before that event to sit with your gut to think out a strategy and plan. That seems like a really appropriate thing because, like, you're talking about trusting what like a previous gut or plan was, but so many of us don't, like, it's just we're reactionary to something failing because I don't know, because we didn't have that like space to just go, okay, what
Because
is the
they're in that
plan?
fix it mode. I have a friend and he's a man, and I can go to every successful man and they're doing exactly what I'm telling you. They get an idea, they act on it, they trust, they just believe it's going to work. So there's no room for it not to work. And so if it doesn't work exactly the way the plan was, it's okay. It's still working. We're going to keep tweaking it. But what women do though that haven't adopted this type of mentality and emotional state yet is they start thinking that they're wrong, they're not enough, they didn't do enough, and so they start doing more. And the fact of the doing more is chasing the money away because you're going to that masculine chasing the money instead of allowing yourself to receive it. So maybe you don't have all the parts figured out, but maybe you have the major part figured out and throw the offer out there. What's it going to hurt, and most of the women that I've mentored thousands of women, they all feel that they're going to get in trouble. And there's like some sort of like school that's out there, like, I'm gonna get in trouble if I don't do this. And they don't even actually realize that that's the actual feeling that they have. You're running your own business. You are the boss. Be
Wait,
the
who do
boss.
they think they're gonna get in trouble from?
I have no idea, but they're like, it's an old patterning or a cycle from when they were growing up. If they weren't perfect, they weren't doing the great best thing because they weren't getting the reward based of being the good girl, doing all the things, then they would get in trouble. They
So when
wouldn't be
it
good enough.
so when it comes to money and wealth and like sales, like just kind of like
Yeah.
creating, are you saying that men have a easier time of tapping into the feminine, like, trust that, like, yeah, it's of course it's gonna work out? Men have an easier time tapping into that feminine than women do?
Some men, not all.
Okay.
Some men. And so that goes both for some women and some men. So because some men are, they'll go into their overthinking and they'll actually do the exact opposite of what they're supposed to do. But the ones that are very successful, you'll hear them say, I just trusted the intuition. I just got a feeling and I did something with it. And they don't discount it. They don't go into that masculine to be like, no, this isn't right. They go into, oh my God, I got this hit. I'm gonna go do something with it. And but unfortunately, because we're wired so tightly to be in that overthinking state, overanalyzing, we get analysis paralysis of trying to figure everything out because they're trying to work on the how and the when instead of just allowing themselves to be in the why of like, let's go, let's just do this. And because when I get a woman who's asking me a ton of questions, she just does not truly trust herself yet because she's not in an empowered, the most empowered level of who she can be. And that just goes back to, their scarcity mindset around certain things. When someone's in scarcity, they're trying to avoid fear because people's biggest fear is I'm not going to have enough money. I'm not going to have enough. And I feel like I've gotten to a level of wealth consciousness. Well, I know I never have to worry about money ever again in my entire life. It will always be there. It's not ever one of the worries I have in my life. My microdermabrasion, that probably is, but I mean, like sorry, the microneedling, but what money, I know when I spend it, it'll come right back to me. And that is the safest feeling that I think I could feel in my entire life. And the way that I got that is I had to start feeling safe with masculine energy, being supported, knowing that the masculine was supporting me and not questioning it all the time if it's going to leave me. Because I had an abandonment wound and I had this with my father and I had, the unworthiness and the betrayal and all the things that were there. So when I started trusting that I was supported by the masculine, even though I didn't have evidence of
The
it,
masculine
the
energy
energy
of
that
the universe or of you?
right.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And then
I'm like trying to
money,
follow here.
yeah, yeah. And then money is masculine.
Okay.
And then, so this is how I
So
started
money
going.
is masculine?
Yeah. The way I look at it is money is masculine. People
Okay.
will say that it has no energy, but the way that I look at high achievers, high performers, we look at money as being a thing that comes in so that we can do whatever. We want safety and protection with this money. The more money we have, the safer we feel because we don't have the sense of safety within inside of ourselves. So once I actually was able to regulate my nervous system, and this is something maybe some of your listeners know how to do with, chiropractic techniques, but once I was able to regulate my nervous system, I did some somatic healing. This is what I teach through my programs. I was able to come into a place where I knew money would never go away. And does take some while. It took some time because a lot of the times we determine our self-worth on our net worth and our net worth is actually does reflect on how much of our self-worth it is. Like if we so it's got, so it's opposite. So the more self-worth we have, the more net worth we have. But unfortunately, people look at their net worth to determine their self-worth and they got it backwards. So when you start feeling into, I'm okay with money, I'm safe with it, I can spend it, I can invest it, I can do whatever I want with it, and it never leaves me. If I can look at someone's business and I see that they've got an abandonment wound, I can see it showing up probably in their business, book of business. They can have, a big month and then all of a sudden there'll be all these money leaks that will come up in their life. Like they'll have a car accident, their tax return will come in, or something will happen and the money will go right back out because they don't feel safe holding that amount of money. Or if somebody has an abandonment wound, they might have, people turning over in their office. A betrayal wound. They might have people turning over in their office, clients, turning on them. They might see like certain things that are happening, like a chaos in their business that's not the good chaos, where it's just like, I have no control over this. I can see that happening. Or, if they have unworthiness, I can see that they're undercharging. They're still trading time for money. They're still trying to, charge very low. Like the first thing when people come work with me, they all raise their rates. And I'm like, we got to stop doing that. And, stop just if, especially people with like, they have wait lists. And I'm like, why haven't you always raised your rates? Come on, let's go. And so I see the unworthiness there. So, and then they're doing way too much for an offer. Say they charge $5,000, but they're giving them like a $30,000, investment because they're worried if this person doesn't have all the things, they solve all their problems. So that comes from the unworthiness. Unworthiness for me was one of my biggest ones that I had to really, really work on. And that's how I started to sell high ticket and move into different places in my business and how I ran my business. I stopped doing one-on-one, and I went to group programs and because I was a lawyer, so I did one-on-one before and that's
Mhm.
what I was conditioned to do, right? And but when I realized, oh, wait, I can do group and I can scale and I can do my business a different way, that's when the millions just started flowing in and there was just a different mindset. But our conditioning, how we feel, always
Yeah.
affect how we do things.
So, like, when you're talking about the intuition, the heart, the like that feminine energy being heart. I almost feel like that's what gets in the way of like this raising the prices thing. So like just to kind of touch on this, so many we're not I don't know, I was going to say we're not accountants here, we're doing service work. We're like
Right.
healers. And so many chiropractors and healthcare providers and healers really struggle with charging more because of what they would probably say the feminine. Like they would say it's their feminine energy that is keeping them wanting to be affordable to people.
That's their broke mindset, not feminine
That's their
energy.
broke ass. You forgot to say broke ass
I was
mindset.
going to, but I didn't wanna really offend everybody. But no, that's just a broke ass mindset because you're meeting people at their disempowering state. Feminine energy empowers people. So if I'm packaging and pricing my things on what I think people can pay me, I'm letting their money mindset determine the success of my business, not the value that they're going to get when they come to me. So if I've been a practitioner for 20 years, there's no way I'm going to be charging what I charged when I came out when I first started. And if I can give you a result that someone else can't, and there's something unique to my service, of course I should charge more. And if it's just like I have a lot of clients that are agency owners, insurance agency owners. There's for State Farm and whatnot, and they'll have a slew of team members that are there, like staff, just to collect people who are late on their payments. And I'm like, why are you dealing with that anymore? Why you fire the client? If the client is costing you money to collect it, get rid of the client. But and that's where that it's not a bleeding heart. It's that you just don't have good leadership in your business because you're not running your business like a business. Heart-centered people know that there's boundaries. They also put themselves in a place of what do you value yourself at? If you don't have a standard for your own, so this is a really hard concept for me to figure out when I started because self-esteem, valuing yourself is how you're going to create a business that you feel really great about. And when you raise and this might go against a lot what people think, by the way. I know this might be some things I might have said might have triggered you and you're like, oh my gosh, what is she talking about? But just keep an open mind what I'm telling you this because I know deep down in your heart you're resonating with this, but it's like, but you're afraid to do it because you don't want people to think that you don't like and love the people. You can I told a client, she's like, I love my poor people. I love them. I said, okay, you can keep doing that. Why don't you offer them other services, different things? Like maybe my podcast is out there, my YouTube. I have other ways of people to get my information if they can't come and make the investment to work with me. But at the same time, it's like, I also know that I get results with what I do. So I have to value the offer. I have to value the service. And so when I do that and I know it can get someone an ROI, I would be doing them a disservice because you attract people who, when you're not raising your standards, you're attracting people who are going to late pay, who are going to want deals, who are going to want everything plus the kitchen sink. They're always going to want something more from you because they don't know their own self-worth. So they're looking through the world through, I want everything to be a deal, deal, deal. So if you haven't elevated yourself, you're going to keep attracting people like this, right? But when you get to a place where you're like, no, my services are, I know I do a great job. I hear it all the time. My practice is booked out. I have a really good business. This is time for an increase because why not? Why not? And the people who don't pay you, let them go because there'll be two other people that'll come in line and they'll want to come to your practice because they're looking for that level of service from you. They're looking for somebody who can provide you that. Going to Four Seasons, they're going to give you a level of service. I love five-star. I only go to five-star hotels right now. When I traveled through Europe for 3 weeks with my kids, something I wrote on my journal every day that I was going to do. It was amazing. I hired a driver because I was done with the trains because I had too much luggage, just buying crap everywhere, and stuff everywhere. I had like bags and bags of Louis Vuitton. It was awesome. And I remember I had $11 in my bank account when I was divorced. So I created all of this, but I love the service that you get. It's almost feeling like you're
Mhm.
better than home. And so I'm paying for that. I'm coming because I appreciate that. So that five-star hotel is attracting me to pay to go there. When everything was shut down during 2020, all the designer shops had lines in them. Why? Because they held their standard. This is what we're offering, this is what their service is, and people will pay. But when we're always constantly looking at the value of what the client or patient or whoever can pay, we're not actually setting the standard to have them rise up to meet us. We're meeting them at their disempowerment. We are disempowered people when we charge that way. So I really work on what kind of powerful woman you can be to be in the leader, to be a woman that's running a business, because this is the problem. Most service providers are great at their service, but they're terrible at business. They're terrible at
Mhm.
running their business. They don't know how to run their business. They want to be great
Say that
leaders.
again.
What's that?
I said, "You can say that again."
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not good at leadership, and so I'm a healer too, but at the same time, I'm a healer who's wealthy because I also have put value on what I've done, and that came from that feminine energy. That didn't come from the masculine. That came from the valuation. That came from the heart center place. Because if you're disconnected with your emotional state, you'll never be able to run your business in alignment. There'll always be something that feels resentment, and if you've got resentment, you're charging undercharging. You're seeing another chiropractor making more. That resentment creates a money leak because it's a scarcity mindset. And so when you have competition, when you feel like you're not appreciated, these are all the things that come and they circle and they fester inside of you. So we want you to have a clear, full alignment, high frequency so that you can attract your ideal people who come in, they're on time for their appointments, they love you, they refer you to other people, they pay their bill, they pay in full, they don't have issues with their insurance and gosh, wouldn't life be amazing to be like that? I
Mm.
mean, yes.
So I'm hearing like you have to become that first.
Yeah.
So if you're like identifying like, okay, so I have this unworthiness wound. I'm living in a scarcity mindset with money. I want to just know with every cell of my being that I can be safe. Like I can say like I want to trust money. I want to be safe with it. I can trust that I can be safe with it. How do you start taking those leaps? Like how do you
Well,
start getting from point A to point B?
there's gonna be an event probably that happened where the masculine let you down. My masculine was my father, the protector provider. I have a 17-year-old daughter right now that has the highest emotional intelligence you'll ever meet. I have a podcast episode where she was in my in-person event. People were blown away. Women were crying in the audience listening to her. And I'll tell you why that's so important because as I did this emotional work, my kids also became emotionally mastered. My son became the most masculine man. And being a single mom, trying to raise a son who single moms by themselves, we're chauffeur, we're cook, we're therapists, we're teachers, we're sewers, we're all the things, right? And so I was always in the doing. I had to learn how to really raise him. So when you're starting out trying to get into that state, it's finding the event that happened. So for me, and I'm a protector of my kids as well, but they're also highly independent. I don't wake them up in the morning. I don't do things for them. I've taught them to self-soothe. You've got to look at where did the masculine let you down? And it might not just be your father. It could have been your mother. And we have feminine woundings too. We have the sister wound, the mother wound, which if your mother was ever, judgmental or criticizing, which unfortunately I've met a lot of women who their mothers were, and it came off that way because the mom just wants you to be better. But her communication of it came with you can't do anything right, you're always criticizing everything that you're doing. But her way that she expressed her love wasn't that way, but the wound was still there. So sometimes when you're raised with a mom who has a lot of masculine energy because she's a go-getter, my mom was, she's multimillionaire, did her thing. She put me through law school, put my brother through med school. She was very, very successful, but she was also married to a narcissist, and so she was in her own survival mode with my father, and so her trauma really fueled her success. And so I had it from both sides of not feeling protected, right? And so if you find the story where you don't feel protected, it's going to help you see where you have created your own false sense of masculine energy. Like I can see by even the emojis that a woman uses. If she uses like the muscle emoji, or she uses the thumb, which is a very passive aggressive, or if she just likes a post and says of loves it, I already know that she's so far removed from her emotions that it's not even safe for her to feel because she's numb. And a lot of the times women are numbing themselves out by having their two glasses of wine or more, smoking their weed, shopping, numbing out on Netflix, like going through their phone, scrolling, because it's so much easier than to be present with who they are. This is why people say meditation is really hard. So the first part is identify where you're unsafety, where you feel unsafe. Because if you're constantly in fight or flight or in that survival state, you're going to be looking and searching for things to soothe yourself. You're not actually going to be finding the energy from within yourself. So that's the first order of business. Mine happened to be decades worth of stuff. So I had a lot to unpack. And this is why I wrote this book that literally is changing everybody's life because they all can identify with it. So that would be the first thing. I think the second thing is just start. Are you actually being? Can you chill? Can you stop for a minute? I had to teach myself to just watch a series on a Netflix. See, I don't watch TV. I haven't watched TV. I don't watch anything gory or anything because I'm an empath, and so I feel everything. So, Emily in Paris was actually no, was it the Bridgertons, I think, I whatever.
Bridgerton. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the first thing I ever watched on TV in like 10 years,
Oh my
and it was so hot and sexy, though I couldn't stop. I was like, "More sex, please." I'm like, "This I'm manifesting my man
I've
right
got
now."
some
But
books for you if you want.
okay, good. But it was so great to just leave and just get into a place of feeling. So watching like, what's the movie everybody cries to? You can watch it a million times. It's the love story. Come on, Rachel Adams is in it.
Oh, yeah, it's, The Notebook. It's my favorite.
Yeah,
It's one of my favorite
yeah,
movies.
throw on The Notebook. Get
Yeah.
yourself into your emotions. Start really identifying with them. Stop shutting them down. Ask for help. Vulnerability and being sensual and intimacy were things that I could never do. Even the way I had sex, it was always like, let's go or let's F it out. It was never an emotional connection. And I know it was like timed and it was just not, it wasn't me being present to feel love. And so identify how much love you're actually feeling inside of yourself and where are you connected to you because you, my love, need to get into who you are being because you're so powerful. You're so amazing. And we're doing it backwards. We're doing it trying to prove to people that we're worthy of things instead of just showing up in our worth, showing up in our power and be like, here I am. Like, and this is where I've attracted clients like crazy. I don't chase people. I have people coming from YouTube with a woman found me on YouTube on June and she just signed up for one of my programs, wired, it was multiple five figures to me for one of my higher level programs. I didn't even have to say anything to her. It was just the easiest thing. But when we're chasing things and we're not trusting and our nervous system's always haywired, we're not actually being in that highest frequency of just, I'm the shit. I've got this covered. I'm a grown woman. Everything is good. But when you're in survival mode, you're going to attract other people in survival mode and scarcity. I had to heal my scarcity. I had to heal my victimness. And then I could become powerfully abundant. And all of that is all tied into that masculine and feminine energy. It's all tied into how we're seeing ourselves. And I have not seen anybody else teach it the way I'm teaching it because I was so complex. Then I realized, wow, no, other women were just like me. Like there's so many other women that have gone through this process, maybe at the not the depths that I have, or maybe even further than I have, but they've all got something out of identifying how much more powerful do you want to be? Because if you can't voice who you are, say what you want to say. This is why my podcast is called Unapologetically Rich. Like a lot of the women that I work with, they'll buy the Mercedes but it has to be justified. They'll get something, but it has to be justified. I bought a G-Wagon, $300,000 cash because I wanted it. And men, what some men told me? They're like, you're crazy to spend that money. I don't care what people think because I drive that vehicle every single day and feel wealthy. Whatever makes me feel wealthy. I had it backwards before. I'd buy the things to show I was wealthy. And now I know that being and feeling wealthy and being powerful is all in my alignment of who I am. My emotions run my entire business. If I go into a place for a venue to rent, if I don't feel like this is the one, I don't want it. My team's like, well, how do you feel? Like, because they know that if it feels off, it's not, it's done. I run everything through emotions. I was meeting this one guy, he's a hardcore marketer, and he's like, so you feel everything. He's like, so why? He's like, but then I've got to have the data. And I'm like, okay, I'll agree with you on that. We need to track, our sales and stuff like that. He's like, but yeah, he's like, if it doesn't feel good, I don't do it either. And so you'll see that people are doing what I'm teaching that are very successful. It's just if you are always in your head and then that masculine, it's not going to work. So start figuring out where the story came from. Start looking at your behavior. Do you just let things go or do you have to talk them to death? Do you have to find out the why?
I feel
Are you,
called out.
yeah,
I
but
was
I
with you
mean,
and I'm like, "Yes." Yeah, oh shit, no, that's me too.
but like, can you just, all right, you know, I mean, I'm saying it's so easy. I'm 12 years in. Okay. And I mean, you know what I mean? Like and that's why I had to condense it to teach it, but I'm 12 years in. And so I was definitely the person I would brag about my overthinking. I would tell people I overthink my overthinking. Like I thought that was something to be proud about because I'm just trying to protect myself from any impending danger.
I'm
That's why
thinking
I
about
do
it more
it.
than you. Yes.
Yeah. And
Thank me.
and so so when that's one of our fight or flight, response systems is that we're trying to constantly figure out where we're going to block ourselves from feeling any type of pain or any disappointment. And this is what actually women do to create a success ceiling on themselves is because they're operating in this energy. Like when people come work with me, they start having their highest cash months. And it's because they've now see, like I was actually seeing the world through such a protective, fearful lens, as opposed to an empowered state of knowing and trusting and allowing more to come to me. And it's just it's an amazing process to watch when the woman does the work, and people have to be ready for the work, to be quite honest with you. I turned a woman, she signed up with me a couple days yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? And she had so many questions. I said, you know what? I don't think you're a good fit, because I actually interview everybody for my programs, and I refunded her money. And the people were like, "What? You funded like, a 5-figure investment?" I was like, it's just one of the things that I would felt out of alignment to have someone come in that wouldn't do the work, and I would feel like I would feel like I'd have to keep pulling her along to see it. So
Mhm.
you have to be ready for this work. So not everybody's going to listen to this episode and go, "Yeah, I'm going to do something about it." They're going to keep going into survival mode, being tired, thinking it's their adrenaline, there's something wrong with their gut. They're going to do parasite cleanses. They're going to do all of these things, which I'm not saying they're wrong or bad, but they're going to keep looking for a physical way to solve an emotional issue that's actually happening in your body.
Mhm. Yeah, and you talked about, like, you did somatic work,
Yeah, I
right?
did a lot of it.
We had a somatic guest or somatic healing was it called? Somatic therapy?
'Cause I don't know, I just his my I've had 2 different people. Yeah, mine was he was a shaman, and another person,
Mhm.
Ayurvedic. There's different people. Yeah, there's
I think 5 years from now, this idea of these emotions, like needing to get these emotions and traumas out is gonna be so much more mainstream, and people like you are gonna definitely be just leading that charge in making it mainstream. So if somebody wanted to work with you, so you talk about your book, so maybe like somebody who like
oh,
just
yeah,
needs a little
there's
more
the book.
information. Okay.
Unlocking the Quantum Woman, and men read this book too, by the way, it's crazy, but this is the book that you read, and I'm telling you, I say it in the book, go slow, and women will plow through it in 2 days. Get the physical book, because it's a workbook is included in the physical book. There's this dude selling a workbook for my book on Amazon. That's not mine. But,
What the fuck?
get I know, right? And so people are
That's how
buying it.
you
They're
know
like,
you're
"Wait."
good is when
Yeah,
people are doing
I know, I
spin-offs.
know. That's what someone said to me too, and I was like, "Okay." And then, there's the audio, because I my toxic trait is I buy books and then I get the audiobook too. So I do both. So because I like sometimes want to get through the book. So get the audiobook. I recorded it myself. That was such a painful experience. But anyways, there it's done. And it's so successful. I had like 1,000 downloads since we opened it up, like I think in September. So I just put that out. The book is doing great. It's been a #1 bestseller on Amazon for women in business for a whole year. I have a podcast called Unapologetically Rich. And let me tell you, everybody thinks I'm their bestie when they're listening to me. Like, you're going to get a little hit. They're short because I know you all have a lot of things to do and you're multitasking, but I would ask you to just, listen to it, binge it, whatever, go start from the beginning, and keep an open mind with it. And then come join our Quantum Woman group on Facebook. It is a bumping group. When I tell you, I've been in like so many Facebook groups, there's women there that are like-minded, anywhere from multimillionaires to women who are starting out in their business, or just starting. But it's a great place to come and talk about wealth consciousness, about expanding your emotions, and if you want to work with me, you can send me a message. But also, we have a freebie.
Yep,
I think
I'll
it's
have
the
that
Daily
link.
Money Moves, right? So go get
Yes.
that. Go download the freebie.
I just bought your book.
Oh, you did? You'll love
Yeah.
it. You'll absolutely love
I'm
it.
getting it on Christmas Eve, so I'm
Yeah,
excited.
you'll love it, and, it's gonna be a game changer. I am out here to change the world. Women, we do not have to be in suffering anymore. Things don't have to be hard. We need to go back to the time where they had it right, where the women were getting fed grapes and they were running the world. I mean, this is our time when we're moving into an era right now, and I'm not gonna get into astrology because I really don't know a lot of it, but I live by it. But we're no longer in the time where women are supposed to be suffering. There's a new way. 2025 could be your greatest year to have everything you want, to have the business you want, to step away from your business, let it run more without you there, and have the relationships, the sex, the love, whatever it is that you desire, it's there for you.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so we will have that freebie below.
Yeah.
I'll let you know how the book is because I just like I said, I just bought it.
Yeah, keep me
This
in
is my
touch.
ADHD. I will.
And leave me
Uh,
a review if you loved it.
I will.
Please
I
keep it.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was
Yeah.
gonna say I'll let the audience know. I'm not gonna tell you
Yeah.
how I think your book is. Of course, I'm sure your book is amazing. So thank you so much for your time. I have learned a ton, and I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you for giving me the chance to share this message. I want this to be a household way. I want every woman to feel the way I do, because we just need to.
Agreed. All right,
Oh, by
she's
the way, I'll
yeah.
say one thing. The thing that I was missing for on that yoga mat was fulfillment, and I have it now. There's nothing missing, and I want that for you. So,
Oh shit! Like now I have 17 more questions. Okay. All right. Until next
okay.
week, she slayers. Bye.